Welcome to Stephen King Saturday. Okay, so I rewatched Into the Tall Grass. In the Tall Grass. I keep calling it Into the Tall Grass. I like Into the Tall Grass better.
I do too.
Whatever.
Flows better.
It does. This is your first time watch.
Yes.
And right after this was over, the second time, which was I'm talking about this viewing, I read the short story, which was about 50 pages. And this was written by Stephen King, obviously, but also by him and his son. So, and this is in Joe Hill's collection, not a Stephen King collection. So in order to get this story, it was originally published in Esquire magazine in 2 parts, which is pretty crazy to me because, like...
I didn't even know Esquire, published... fiction.
Yeah.
I thought Esquire was just
men's magazine.
Men's magazine with fashion and gadgets and stuff.
Yeah, it came off in 2 separate issues, half of it in one, half of it in the next, and then was published into Joe Hill's compilation that I checked out from the library on my phone right after. And definitely we'll talk about some changes for sure. So spoilers from here on for the movie and the book, or the novella.
Novella.
All right, so first things first. What'd you think?
I liked it. Honestly, I think it had some good atmosphere. I think my favorite part of this story was and I guess it's different in the short story, in the novella that you were saying, but the time distortion element, I was a really big fan of. And I also really loved the opening, just them going into the grass, getting lost, and they'll be standing in one spot, and they'll hear the voice change directions, and then when they do the whole jump and he moves farther back. I thought all that was really cool. I was really into that.
So they did something in this movie that I'm I don't really know how the grass could prevent you from leaving if you put someone up on your shoulders and they were looking straight at something as you walked towards it, and every time it shifted, I guess it could just, because nothing ever seemed to shift reality when you were up above, right? So as long as you had an eye, the tall grass prevents you from seeing the fluctuations and the changes. Now, and the kid was up on the guy's shoulders for a bit, and in that, he could continue to keep seeing, but then they got, they got prevented from doing that. But regardless, I feel if you got up on someone's shoulders and could see above it, and see exactly where it is that you're going, I don't know what would happen. But I think getting into the whole oh, why don't they just do this kind of stuff? That's, unless it's egregiously stupid. I don't ever have a big issue with that whole well, why didn't they just do this? And there are instances, and I will call them out in movies all the time when I'm come on. Yeah. They would just do this. This is stupid. With this is one of those kinds of situations, and I don't think people really appreciate the magnitude of not only the situation, but how a brain would react to this situation being grounded in reality forever. I don't think you would function correctly.
No.
You wouldn't make logical decisions when everything around you is illogical. Yeah. And once you're in the grass, you're kind of fucked. I don't really know what you can do outside of, as I said, someone up on your shoulders. But if you can't find anybody and you're in there alone...
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that, not everybody that goes in pairs up, and even when they go in together, they get separated. So it's not always they're together, to think. And then, as you said, you wouldn't be thinking as clearly as you're thinking when you're watching a horror movie and are I'm safe. I would just simply do this, this, and this. But, if you're in those situations, no, it would just be so outside of the realm of anything that you'd ever dealt with before. So, yeah, I don't know. It didn't bother me. I feel like everybody in here I don't know of any decisions that were made that I was like, oh, that's so dumb. Like, why did they do that?
I said that in my review, and I remember somebody saying something in the comments that was like not a problem, but they were like, "Oh, nobody does anything stupid. Wow about this," and I was like, "God, I'd love to. I'd love to remember what that was."
I don't know. I didn't.
Something about a car. It doesn't matter. Regardless, more evidence to my point of like getting up on someone's shoulders and watching is the tall grass, like land or whatever the hell's happening. It's the I don't know if the teleportation or like what the hell's happening, because obviously they jump in one spot and then they jump in another spot, right? And she hasn't moved, but he has.
Super cool.
But he didn't move. Neither of them moved. So that's kind of odd. But regardless, more to my point of the evidence towards the shoulder thing potentially working is that if you have someone with you walking ahead of you, if you have your eyes on them, you never lose them. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't just warp out of your vision.
Yes.
Right? Like, there has to be some correlation between visual aids, like being able to see where the person is. The tall grass doesn't seem to have, or the rock, if you want to call it. That's the power, not the tall grass. It doesn't seem to have the power to transport you somewhere else, turn you around, whatever. Now, I don't know if they're actually being like teleported, or the ground is moving, or they're warping through time and space or whatever. Part of me thinks that there's lapses in time happening where their like body is moving and they're not realizing they're doing it. The only thing that doesn't work there is that both of them aren't moving and they both go to jump. So you'd have to have, I'm trying to explain something that's like impossible to explain, but like, I don't know. I don't, the whole like they're moving this way and that way, for some reason I feel like it's just, it's more time distortion than it is like spatial distortion.
I kind of felt maybe I felt like they were, especially because of like the end and how they start seeing like dead versions of themselves. I sort of thought that maybe they're just like in this like little pocket where they're like seeing like parallel, you know, like timelines.
Thank you for reminding me of that. That reminds me, when we were watching it, and then I think, while we were watching it, I started thinking about it. It's because of what Patrick Wilson, Ross, what he says, essentially, like when he captures Cal, he's like, you know, you couldn't get away from me because you'd made every decision you could have made, and I knew every one of them. And that got me thinking, like, okay, there's so many different probabilities and possibilities of where they could be. So many different right turns, left turns, straight, stop, whatever. And they're kind of being, not transported, I guess transported consciously to like another version of themselves that made the wrong choice, right? Like if you were to walk into the woods, right, there's only a couple ways out and you can make so many different decisions, and I feel like it keeps putting you in the body of the ones that made the wrong decision. Yeah. Right? And that because like, we'll get into it, but this is such a complex idea. It's hard to even put into words, because it's all speculation. It's all guessing. There is no answer.
No, but it was really cool though, because it's very like cosmic horror, which I'm a big fan of. And
I love this kind of shit.
Yeah, me too. So, but it is hard to kind of put it into words.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't see any definitive answer. And, the book doesn't help. I thought reading that would give me a clearer understanding. It doesn't, because while it's similar, like the first third of the novella is almost verbatim exactly the same. And then from there, it's just toned down, right? Like there's no time distortion. Travis, the boyfriend, doesn't come. We never meet the wife of Ross. Tobin, the boy, is always like, he's already been turned by the rock. He's always evil. And the boy that we meet the first time, because when we started this movie, I didn't have 100% memory of where this all went and like if the boy was in on it or not. The way it's set up, when Becky and Cal are like outside the tall grass, it very much seems like it's gonna be a lure that like it has the ability to mock anybody who walks into
That's
it.
what I thought was happening. I thought that it was like taking the voices of people who it already took
Consumed,
as victims,
yeah.
and was just drawing people in.
Yeah, and that may be the case. I don't see any other evidence for it in this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that, because the kid seems very like set on trying to get them in there, even though he kind of knows they're fucked. So it's like, why are you trying so desperately to lure them in there in a very manipulative way?
Well, there's definitely like he's trying to lure them in there when he's already like taken over.
Right, so that might be that version of himself, right?
Yeah, I think that there's an influence between him and his dad, once they're possessed or whatever.
Yeah, except for, and we also have multiple versions, because like, make no mistake, I mean, a lot of people, including myself and Kaylee, would fall for this because it's a lost child, right? This is really playing off of our instincts as good people. It's like there's a kid in danger, we gotta help. Honestly, I mean, I think in reality, should they have been like, just come to our voice? I think what would have made more sense for the film is if they were like, well, we're not coming in there. Like, just come to our voice. Right there, we can hear you. And then, the more he keeps kind of getting, like, distant and, like, in different places, they're like, okay, this is fucking weird. Like, I'm not going in there. This sounds like a trap, right? Instead of that, you could have just had him, like, like, are you out there? I need help. And then he starts screaming.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Then that would have created urgency, right? Like, he's not too scared yet, right? No. He's kind of he sounds like they wandered in there and they've been lost for a little bit. They don't sound manic. They don't sound frantic and desperate at this point. So I think adding a sense of urgency to the scene would have really sold them going in. But I totally buy that they would go in anyway.
Sure.
I just think that they would
push back more, or like not go in right away.
Something like that. But regardless, I think that they would be encouraged more. They would be like, oh, okay, like we need to get in there right now because the kid's screaming help is going to draw people in.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so, and then we also have we have the dog, right?
Yeah.
Who's dead. And then the dog survives. Or does it, right? Like, we see it run out onto the road and gets away. We also see, potentially, Becky's dead body. But she gets away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so...
I know.
This is coherence or any of those kind of, or time, triangle or whatever, right? Like, time loops. But this isn't a time loop. This is like alternate realities.
Yeah.
Right. And so you never know exactly what to expect. And that, of course, takes me to the end when we're talking about that, because my big question is Travis at home alive?
Yeah.
But I don't think so, because I think you only have realities that start to separate you from your existence in so many different ways when you go into the tall grass. And I think every version of you before that, like there is no other version of you. You got one version before you go into the tall grass, and then you have
the version of you after.
1,000 versions of you inside the grass, right? So I think Travis. So now, did any Travis get out? Right? Did any Rosses get out? There's so many multitude of possibilities there. You could have had. Now, if more than one gets out, if 3 Beckys get out, do 3 Beckys go back home?
I mean, maybe they're in their like correct universe. I don't know that they would still be in the same one, because it's almost like the grass is like this.
But what's the right universe? Because
but maybe not the right universe.
If somebody sees her dead body and then she's also in there alive, they're both in the same reality. Unless
I think that that's
body
only
disappears.
because they're in the tall grass. I think that's where they're able to be in the same, like occupying the same space. But once they like leave that, I don't think that there'll be 2 Beckys running around in the same universe. I think it would, like, there would be a split. But you're right, they might not be in the right one, like in the one that they came from. Maybe they're in a slightly different universe, which would be really scary all on its own.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if that's what happens. I don't know if it's just, there's like, but, okay, so there's evidence that suggests, okay, the way you'd have to look at it is that one dead body stays in this reality. This is so fucking hard to conceptualize, because like in my head I'm going in so many different directions of like how this dead body would end up in your reality, unless your reality, like, how can there be multiple versions of you in one reality, right? It would, in order for you to branch off into all these different realities, why is there never 2 Beckys or Cals that are alive in the same, right? And it's only the dead that remains, right? It's like, that's the way you can find people is you can seem to find things when they're dead. So and then people use those as a junction point to meet once you're dead. But how, I can say like, yeah, okay, the dead bodies would stay, but how many of you died? If you're really being transported around that much, there should be like, you should be coming across 30 of your dead bodies. But we only see 1 dead dog, 1 dead Becky, maybe 1 dead wife. Sure. And that's it. And it's like, why are we not seeing tons more? So why, like, there's 1 dead body in your existence that's you, but why aren't you then dead? That's so hard.
I guess like what it would have been really cool, because there's other cars that are parked at the church. Yeah. It would have been cool to see other people, like other bodies of people, but there would also need to be maybe like some live ones that are trapped in there still. And a potential explanation could be that since like Becky and all of them are newer, like they've only come in the last like year or whatever, that there wouldn't be as many dead versions of them as like the others. I mean, that would be what I would say.
And we are dealing with time distortion as well, right? Because Travis shows up. Yeah. And is like, you've been missing for 2 months, and Becky and Cal are like, we've been in here for hours. Right. So.
Right. So the time distortion, I think there could have been other people that we came across, the other victims from those other cars.
But maybe it only feels like it's been a couple hours or a few hours for them, because they're only, like, they're jumping from, body to body to body to body. Every time they make a movement this way or that way, or any decision or any kind of, like, movement, they're jumping. And so they keep jumping back to themselves. And every time they jump back to themselves, it's been an hour, 5 days, whatever, since they come back to themselves, and then that 2-second window of time, then keep extrapolating that for months, it's only been a couple hours. Maybe not. I have no freaking clue. Or time is moving differently out there. But then we have things happening in the past that happen in the future when they come in, and all that stuff. So time is reversing itself and is later, and who the hell knows, right? The dog makes it out, but it's dead. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. So this is from the director of Cube, which makes perfect sense that he would be the director that they would go after. Bunch of strangers trapped in a location, and they keep kind of looping back on themselves and trying to figure out why the hell they're there. Very Cube. Yeah. Very Cube-esque. Obviously, you've got the one heel, who's the like toxic man, and yeah, I mean that's just it's got the bones of Cube all over it, so it makes perfect sense. And the main star who plays Becky, she plays a character named Dodge in Lock and Key, which was written by Joe Hill, so it was cool to see her here. And yeah, I mean, probably the biggest diversion from like the source material here is the inclusion of Travis coming, because in the book, Cal doesn't even know who the father of Becky's kid is. He has no clue. And in the movie, he's very much aware and doesn't like him and pushes him away, and is like one of the main reasons Becky does what he does. Now, they're this close in the book. In fact, they're closer in the book. Like there is kind of some, I don't want to say it's not outright, but I feel it's kind of suggested that they have a thing for one another, but like they don't do anything about it. But Travis is the one that's like in a flashback when she has like a dream. I think it's a dream, yeah. He's suggesting that like he wants her. So that's
more mutual.
That does remain the same to a degree, but they're like super, super close. And in this, it seems like Cal's more into Becky and his relationship than Becky is into him, right? Like in the movie, it seems like he's the overbearing brother, and in the book, it's very mutual. They are completely inseparable. We go back to their childhood, and it's like they do not, like, they complete each other's thoughts. They, finish each other's sentences. They're Irish twins. They're very, very close in age, and they're inseparable. In this, I don't know. In the movie, it seems like she's in a bad spot, so she goes to her brother kind of begrudgingly, and her brother is like all over her shit because he's like in love with her.
Yeah,
that's the way
I
it feels in the
definitely
movie.
got that he was like way more into her, and that she was kind of like, begrudgingly trying to get his help, but didn't like really care for him that much.
So Travis comes, and he's a big part, and he's who lets them out. This is, of course, not the same in the book because Travis doesn't come at all. We never meet Ross's wife in the book. She's dead by the time Becky finds her with Ross. Ross takes him straight to her and immediately tries to rape her. There is no nice guy scene. Ross. All the bad guy lines are basically the same. Feel me inside of you, and like, we'll get naked on the rock together and all that stuff. That's all the same. And then the kid, Tobin, he's evil the whole book. In this, he's mostly good. There is one scene where he's questionable for sure. When they first meet him, he's like, looks way off. Yeah. And he's like, I'm going to take you to the rock, right? So he's like turned at that point, and that's the kid who lured them in. But then before that, I don't know, because Travis he's like, you seriously don't remember me? Yeah. So I don't know at what point the kid gets turned, but it's at the beginning is the latest point of the kid we see.
Right. That's when he's like the farthest gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't freaking know. And then probably the biggest change is that in the movie, Ross is feeding Becky one of her dead selves. He's got her next to her own body, like one of her other dead selves, and he's feeding her herself. In the book, it is her brother and the kid, Tobin, Cal and Tobin, who are feeding Becky's dead, miscarried baby to herself because she has a miscarriage right there next to the rock.
Yeah.
And then she wakes up and she's super thirsty and super hungry and she's like just like totally out of it. And Cal and the boy are like feeding her own dead baby. And that's how that ends. I mean, and then that's their story. They're just there by the rock and she's getting fed her own baby. And then it just ends with some like hippie bus or something pulling up, and one by one they kind of disappear into the tall grass.
Oh wow.
So yeah, nobody makes it out.
Wow.
And the dog is always dead. We never see the dog again.
Stop it. Sorry.
He's only dead in the book. So yeah, all those kinds of things. But yeah, it does have a very similar feel to it. I think it's a good adaptation. It's just expanded upon to make it a feature length because there's just not enough material to make it, 90 minutes, which is, I think this is like an hour and 40. But adding Travis in, adding the wife in, having the kid, the time distortion and all that stuff. I think that was cool. I think that was a good addition. It has the same feel as the book. There's still the Church of the Black Rock. There's still the bowling alley. The bowling alley is not inside the grass, though. It's next to the church. There's no building inside the grass, only the rock. And yeah, I mean, those are the big major changes. The guy who plays Travis is the inventor of STEM from Upgrade, which I thought was cool because I love that movie. And yeah, we got Patrick Wilson singing in here again.
Yeah.
He seems to always like to sing in his films. So.
He's got a great voice.
Has he ever done like a musical kind of movie?
Yeah, he did The Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, well,
he played
okay,
Ralph.
right, sure.
Stop it.
Sorry, I meant
Get
like
out of here.
like a singer for like a Star is Born.
Oh, like a what are those called? This dog is attacking my feet. No, I don't think so. There's a word that I was trying to think of that's like, it's not a biography, it's like a
Biopic.
Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
A biopic.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick him up.
He's just gonna be crazy. He wants to play.
Yeah.
That's all.
And yeah, I mean, we actually, that's right. We see tons of dead cows. We see them in like different versions of decomposition from all the different times that Ross had killed him and all the different like decisions that he made.
Yeah.
And of course we have like the prophecy on the stone, which is in every fucking movie. The whole prophecy thing has always been annoying to me. And then the coolest shot in the whole film is all the people buried under the grass. Like they get a view under the tall grass.
Yeah.
And it's just like people
I thought that was
that are
like
giving life
grass?
to the grass above.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool. It actually kind of reminded me, we just rewatched The Mummy. 1
absolutely.
and 2, and it kind of looks like the scene from The Mummy Returns.
Yeah, when Imhotep falls into the
like get the depths
hell.
of hell.
Yeah.
And all the bodies are.
Yeah.
It's cool, really cool imagery.
Except for this looks way better.
This looks way better, yeah.
Because the CGI in The Mummy Returns, as we all know, is not the best. Ross keeps having only one eye. So it's like his prime self seems to stay after Becky takes his eye out. Mm-hmm. There's never another version of him. So like injuries sustained.
Yeah.
Stay.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, right?
That would...
Or does she stab him in every reality?
For some reason, I don't remember. You mean, he has 2 eyes in the beginning, though.
Sure, but once he's stabbed, he always has one eye. I feel like once you touch the rock, right, then it's just that version of yourself, but it's being controlled. So
Yeah.
it doesn't ever, you can just see all the paths and you make all the right decisions, but it's for the Rock, not for yourself. So you're stuck in that body at that point, right? Ross is always Ross. But if the kid touched it and there was an evil version of him out there, then why did we see the good kid again?
Sure. Like, shouldn't he have always been the evil version?
Like, once you touch the Rock,
Once you touch that, then all versions of you.
then all versions of you should, like, that version of you should just stay.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know why the kid is good in there and from the past, when the Ross we meet seems to be very linear.
Yeah.
And once he hits, but I feel like at that point, he's already touched the Rock.
Yeah.
He doesn't go to touch it. So the second we meet Ross, he has already touched the Rock.
Yes, he's
And
just
so-
pretending to be nice.
Right.
So we don't really ever see a good version of him. We just see like.
Well, there is no good version of him.
Yeah.
Right. He's very easily corruptible because it's very obvious very early on that Ross is like a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like the way he talks about his wife and whatever when he goes in, it's like, yeah, this is a dude on the edge. And I think it's very easy for him to get turned. Now, was he abusive to his wife and his kid before this? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I think if you're susceptible to it, you become an easier mark.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's definitely falls prey to it for sure. Cal letting Travis fall off the building was messed up.
So messed up. Oh man.
and
Especially
then
when they
he's the
just
one
saw
who-
the way out too.
Yeah, and then he's the
Like-
one who ends up saving Becky.
Yeah.
And Tobin, right? They get
Yes.
out together?
Yeah.
Right.
The two of them get out.
Right. So,
So-
yeah, much different than the, like, I would have very much preferred, of course, them feeding her baby.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so messed up.
That's more
It's
my style.
so dark, and then having like a hippie bus show up with like a bunch of people like getting off to continue feeding the grass is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. And yeah, Ross gets strangled to death by the grass, which I thought was, poetic. And we see Travis touch the Rock, and the Rock presents itself as like the beating heart of the land. And Ross even refers to it as the center of the continent. So you were thinking alien.
I was.
That's where you were going
I
with
was
it.
thinking alien.
This is some kind of like meteor.
I think
that hit.
I was honestly thinking it because we had just watched the Tommy Knockers,
Sure.
and it kind of was reminding me of that.
Yeah.
Just in like, I don't know, alien object that's influencing people.
We also see when he touches the Rock that like grass starts like seeping into his body and
Yeah.
like takes over his heart and everything. So I don't think there is an escape once you've touched the Rock.
Yeah.
Like once you've touched the Rock,
Well, that's why he's
You
like,
have to stay.
you'll know how to get out, but you won't want to leave.
you won't want to because
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
No, I think.
But
you
if
were-
you can, what's preventing you from doing so? Knowing that you're going to infect other places or like what? Because Ross
well, if
wouldn't
it's
give a
an
shit.
alien thing, it may be like the grass. Like if you're a part of it, like you have to stay in that area.
Or
It's like
you'll
you
die.
wouldn't be able to sustain, outside of there.
But wouldn't like Travis not want to live anymore? Like after, like if he's still the good guy that lets them out.
Yeah.
Because like the dog finds some loophole from some little freaking tuft of grass in front of the bowling alley.
Yeah.
He just walks here and then boom, he's out on the street. And I'm like, well, shit.
That was that.
Should've used
super
that.
Easy. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but they get pulled into their because he gets chased or whatever and doesn't get to tell him and
Yeah.
freaking betrays Travis before he can tell anybody. So Cal gets everyone killed because he's in love with his sister, which is messed up, obviously.
Yeah.
And I smell poop because there's a big poop behind us. Smells like I'm in the tall grass right now with some
Listen.
fertilizer.
Wow.
Good
It's
thing
so
we're
stinky.
pretty much done. Oh yeah, he sends. Right, no, Cal does survive because Becky and Cal's versions of themselves gets saved by the kid running out with the necklace. So Cal does get to survive.
You're right. He does run out.
Yeah,
I
and
totally
Becky
forgot.
decides to keep the baby.
Right.
She turns the car back around and goes home.
Yeah, you're right. They do both get
She's
saved.
going to be...
So
It's going to suck, too, because, like, that version of Becky
has no
does
idea.
not know what happened.
None.
And Travis was a good guy who
Yes.
sacrificed his life to save them.
Yeah.
Right? And what happened to the Becky in the grass? We watched this last night.
Yes, we did.
That's terrible. I read the book right
Becky
after.
in the grass. I mean, she died. I just don't remember at what point.
Yeah. I can't remember. He sends out the boy though.
Yes.
With the necklace. Gives it to him, and then he convinces them not to come in. Which, if they never come in, does that mean that none of that happened for them?
I don't. I mean, I would say it doesn't. It means none of it happened for them, but it did happen for other versions of themselves, because those other versions would still need to have gone in order for him to come out of the church to warn them not to go in. You know.
It just seems like because the boy does get out, and
Yes.
one of the boys touches the rock. So that kind of screws up our theory about like
that,
once you touch the rock, that version of you now is like beholden to the rock, and there is no other version of you. So how does the kid get out when he had touched the rock? That screws that theory up, because now I'm like, I don't understand. Like this, it gives you so many different alternate realities. I feel like one of you is going to get out. Or multiples of you are going to get out.
Yeah, you'd think that the possibilities that one of you would survive at least.
Yeah, bro. This movie's too confusing, but I still like it.
I do too.
Yeah. And it's a thinking, I mean, it's purposely convoluted.
Yes, it is.
Right? But like, some of it is, and some of it's just like, you know, they didn't think that deeply about that. Right. They're like, whatever. It's sci-fi.
It's alright.
And here we are
trying to think really deeply,
blowing our brains freaking out of our heads, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're gonna clean up some poop because I'm not gonna smell that anymore. What'd you think of this adaptation? What'd you think of the novella? If you read it, it's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it and you stuck through this for some reason, to see if you wanted to watch it, well, let us know any of those things. Other than that, we'll see you next week with whatever we pick, which we don't know what that is yet, but we'll see. Bye.